Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas, the mango in question. Since my initial Fruits Basket predictions video, I've kept a close eye on how the show has played out so far. I'm thrilled to say that not only has the show been spectacular, but a lot of my initial predictions rang true as well. From now on, I'd like to post updates on the series. This won't be a weekly recap of the story, since I'm sure even non-fans have a well enough grasp on how events are playing out without someone to weeb-splain the specifics. Instead, every handful of episodes, I'd like to give my thoughts on the overall execution of the series, how the staff and cast have contributed to that, as well as why Fruits Basket is just so darn wholesome. This format also gives me time to research into the staff specifics for each episode, since making these things is a long process. Once I've streamlined the format, the videos and the length between them will be shorter, but buckle in because this first one is meaty. Also, because this is a fresh new anime, the restrictions around what I can show will be greatly increased, so I hope you like screen caps. I'll do my best to keep the visuals exciting as I edit, but copyright claims are no joke. It actually got my previous video just for showing trailer footage. After a quick edit, the video was fine, but the situation is still there. Please bear with me. Before we begin though, I should mention that we don't really know how long this series is going to be. As of the posting of this video, there is no news on how long the proposed first season is, and without that context, it's hard to give a proper estimate either. Of course, once I know more, I'll be sure to give my best guess on what to expect. With that said, I'd like to discuss the first 4 episodes today. First off, we have a new staff member announcement. Our composer is Masaru Yokoyama. His most extensive work seems to be on the Queen's Blade series, which didn't ring up much confidence until I saw he also composed for Your Lie in April. This was an immediate relief, as the music for Your Lie in April was phenomenal, as it had to be for an anime based solely on music. This also brings up an interesting connection, since our director, Yoshihide Bata, if you remember, storyboarded episodes for Your Lie in April. Perhaps it was this industry connection that led Yokoyama to compose for Fruits Basket. In any case, the music here in Fruits Basket is perfectly serviceable. It's not the music playing now, obviously, because the soundtrack hasn't been released yet. In any case, the new music for this series is strong enough to notice it's there and to evoke the right emotion, but subtle enough to carry scenes without overpowering things. When the most dramatic and emotional scenes hit, I'm really excited to hear what Yokoyama has in store. On a similar note, the opening and ending themes by Beverly and Vic Blanca, respectively, are smooth, emotional ballads that really match the tone of the story. I was worried that they'd slap on some J-pop songs and call it a day, but I'm relieved to hear otherwise. Moving right along, let's discuss how the existing staff has contributed so far. One of my biggest predictions has rung true, as our director, Yoshihide Bata, has not only storyboarded all 4 episodes so far, but acted as episode director on episodes 1 and 3. His strong storyboarding background has really formed the backbone of this show. In conjunction with their series composition lead, Taku Kishimoto, they both have produced well-paced episodes thus far. So far, nothing has felt rushed, scenes and character moments are given proper time, and all the emotions have rung true to the source material. Something that may be a stylistic choice is the humor. The old Fruits Basket anime prioritized humor to the story's detriment, but this new show feels somehow the opposite. What I mean is that while the humor is present, it's played straight as part of the scene in a way that doesn't really put focus on it. Comedy is most effective when there's a focused intent on the humor, like a scene cut, different camera angle, or an art style change. The manga often went into a more comical style to deliver the humor better, whereas the show thus far has been mostly keeping on model to carry its more emotional scenes, only dabbling in exaggerated art style for a few brief moments. Thankfully, we have a return to form with Kagura's appearance in episode 4. This put much more focus on the comedy while still balancing the emotional scenes later on. In other words, they seem to have finally struck the right balance that makes Fruits Basket such a resonant story to begin with. The only questionable adaptive choice so far is to move the cultural festival forward in the story. The festival itself hasn't moved exactly, but events that took place closer to the festival, like Kyo's cat invasion, Tora's plum analogy, and Momichi's initial introduction, well, spoilers, I guess, that's his name, but you would have found out anyway, are just a few chapters later than what we've seen, chronologically speaking. Yuki and Toru's shape of kindness analogy and Kyo and Toru's plum rice ball analogy are now juxtaposed into one episode. It's obvious to me that they placed these scenarios together to theme the conflict and similarities between Kyo and Yuki. On paper it's very clever, but I personally feel that two heavy-hitting metaphors come off a little too heavy-handed when placed together. In future episodes, I hope each character can shine strongly on their own in their own episodes. As far as Momiji showing up, I can only guess that the staff is implying that Kagura's introduction and Toru's true home mini-arc took place in the month before the festival. Which, while technically true, fitting it into a time frame like this feels worrying. When it's all explained like this, it can sound confusing, but I'm pretty confident the team will have things play out without feeling rushed. We can't forget that Takaya is an executive producer, so I can only assume this minor change was given the okay by her. Here's hoping. Visually, Fruits Basket has never looked better. Comparing just about any scene from this remake to the 2001 series is mind-blowing. The updated character designs look great in motion. Plus, it's easier to tell visually similar characters like Kagura and Toru apart. This was a slight problem in the manga, and the male characters occasionally had similar issues. In any case, TMS Entertainment is putting forth a consistent amount of effort to make the show look solid at all times. Movement is fluid and realistic, while also executing the deformed shoujo humor as well. Considerable care has gone into the more subtle reactions from characters, so emotions really carry through in the animation. I can tell TMS haven't really let loose yet, but overall I'm pleased with how the show has maintained itself visually. And now, a section I'm calling the Takaya Crackdown, where I talk about changes from the old show, and what I can tell Takaya had a definite involvement in. There's actually not too much to talk about this time. We have Kyo's bracelet, which I mentioned in my previous video. In all of the official manga art, the bracelet is red and white. And based on the information that's revealed later in the manga, these colors have a more symbolic meaning than the black and white they were in the previous show. We were introduced to the Prince Yuki fan club president, Motoko Minagawa, in episode 1. Her hair is now black instead of brown. Takaya actually tweeted about the change to confirm that yes, this is the true color it's supposed to be. As long as we're talking hair, Yuki's hair is back to a light silver instead of whatever dark gray, purple nonsense it was in the old show. Right on the cover of Volume 2, you can clearly see his hair is silver, so I don't know how the old anime got that wrong. I could mention that they're finally showing the hat, but that was in the manga from the beginning, so this show would have already failed if it didn't show it. Manga readers are really excited over this, so I hope anime-only watchers keep a close eye on things. From an acting standpoint, there's a lot to cover. In the future, I'll only mention standout moments, but because this is the first time hearing everyone, I need to address everyone individually. English first. Laura Bailey gives the more grounded, humor performance as Toru, different from the boisterous tone she kept in most of her readings from the old show. It's really just a difference in how she emotes, but she's still the strongest performer in the show by far, and perfect casting. Jerry Jewell somehow sounds younger than before and more antsy, which is perfect for Kyo. He's hitting a more emotional range here, which is good for a character that could have easily been played stereotypically angry. John Bergmeyer sounds exactly the same as Shigure, so nothing to say here. Fantastic. Eric Vale still has that whispery quality to his voice, but I can tell there's more subtlety here as well. Glad they're not copying the old voice verbatim. Elizabeth Maxwell and Jad Saxton as Arisa and Saki, or Uo and Hana as they're more commonly known, both performing well, so no complaints here. When their characters get a chance to shine later on, I'd love to hear what they bring to these characters. Lydia McKay plays Kyoko Honda, Toru's mother. Lydia is pretty much the official anime mom voice, as she's voiced plenty of minor and major mom roles. Hearing her as Kyoko just feels right, and I'm happy with the snippets I've heard so far. Tia Ballard as Kagura is great. I really think she nailed the two sides of Kagura much better than the old actress did. Already can't wait for her to come back. All minor roles are played well, which is good because sometimes side characters really stick out when performances are bad. Also, Jamie Marquis is back as Motoko, so that was a pleasant surprise. As an aside, there were notable differences in names for the dub. The old Fruits Basket was kind of notorious for mispronouncing its, albeit very Japanese, character names. This has been fixed. Kyo is no longer Kyo. Honda is not Honda. In retrospect, this makes sense since all Japanese vowels are pronounced the same way. So I've been pronouncing this wrong since middle school, so that's fun. Shigure is no longer Shigure, though that's a very easy one to slip into by accident. Akito is now Akito, as it should be. Kagura is now Kagura. You get the picture. I'm sure Hattori will be changed from Hattori as well, so all is right with the names. In addition, this isn't a pronunciation bit, but Toru now refers to Yuki by his family name, Soma. This is how it was in the manga, as using first names with people you're not close friends with can come off as impolite in Japan. I'm glad this was implemented, as strange as it may come off initially for English speakers. It's a good setup for further character development that was missed in the old show, at least dub-wise. Even so, the dub does keep honorifics sometimes, and that can be a little jarring. Senpai, Kun, Chan, and the like. I'm not really a fan of these in English dubs, but it hasn't been a major disturbance so far, so I'll let this one slide for now. I'm going to bring up more script things later in the English dub, but now the Japanese cast. Again, I don't speak Japanese, so I don't have too much to say on this front. And from now on, I'll only occasionally comment on what happens on the Japanese side of dubbing. The dub is what I'll primarily be watching, so I'll have a more well-rounded opinion on that. Anyway, just two things about the Japanese dub. A notable change is that Yuki is now voiced by a man. That's right, in the original Japanese dub, Yuki was voiced by a woman, and it was pretty obvious too, honestly. That's another thing the English dub had going for it. As an aside, a lot of the women being cast here in this new iteration don't seem like they try to take on a more boyish tone. Momiji sounds straight up like a girl, for example. Maybe it's a cultural thing, since in Japan it's very much a thing to find men more attractive the more feminine they are, but I digress. Finally hearing a man's voice out of Yuki just makes everything right again. And secondly, my boy, Yuma Uchida. As expected, he pulls off Kyo wonderfully. His performance is slightly different from when he played Ash Lynx, as the tone and inflection don't sound the same, but this is good. Kyo was a different character, so he needed a different performance. If I do continue to fully watch the show in both languages, Kyo will certainly be the character I look forward to hearing the most. The final piece of this technical breakdown is the adaptive script. I really wanted to spotlight this because of how crucial a good adaptive script is to a successful dub. Previously, we didn't know who would be writing for the show's English dub, but now it's revealed that both Bonnie Klinkenbeard and Jeremy Kratz are the adaptive writers this time around. The both of them have scripted for well-received dubs. Bonnie for Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and Jeremy for My Hero Academia. Many of the scenes have a clearer meaning in the adaptive script. While the subtitles may be a straightforward translation, adapting your script is not only great for clarity, but necessary to deliver natural dialogue for the audience watching. I've picked out a few of the changes that stood out most to me. In episode 1, Uo confronts the Prince Yuki fan club. The subtitles read, "Hey you, don't you dare use those dumb excuses to pick a fight," while the dub reads, "Hey, don't pick a fight over something stupid because your ego got bruised." Here, the intended tone comes across much more like Uo would talk in the adaptive script. Good choice of vocabulary. Also in episode 1, Shigure comments on Yuki's thoughts on Toru. The sub reads, "Calling Toru amazing is an insult to her, you know." While the dub says, "That's actually pretty rude, you know, calling her suffering amazing." I saw a lot of people were confused by the subline, and it doesn't really make sense anyway. The adaptive script makes the meaning much more clear. In episode 3, Toru reacts to Momiji's German. The sub reads, "A foreigner? I'm sorry, I don't speak English." While the dub says, "What language is that? I'm sorry, but I don't understand." The change here is a more natural line that doesn't mistake the language and embraces the confusion in the scene. It's also pretty Japanese to call someone a foreigner and then assume they're speaking English. In episode 4, Kagura gets frustrated with Shigure about her feelings. The sub reads, "Apparently you don't understand a girl's anxieties," while the dub says, "Apparently you don't understand love, or how anxious it can make someone." The bite behind the words is more apparent in the adaptive script, and, again, makes more sense within the scene. The extended line is only possible because there are no lip flaps to match, but the clarity gained is worth it. So yeah, I think you get the idea. The adaptive script does a phenomenal job fitting the words to the characters' personalities, but also portraying a more accurate meaning to the scene. Another reason why I think the English dub is the way to go on this one. And that's a wrap! I had a lot to say this time, so thank you if you made it this far. Again, you can expect more Fruits Basket coverage in another 4-ish episodes or so. Did you learn anything? Do you agree with me? The Fruits Basket fandom is burgeoning once again, so I'd love to hear both new and old fans' thoughts. In the meantime, I hope you'll continue to watch Fruits Basket with me. Adios from the Mango.